NFL Week 13 Power Rankings. So I always start with the screen of respect. This week I'm calling it the Playoff Watch screen. There are 7 teams on this screen. Only one of them today is in playoff position if the season were to end today, which is very interesting. I'm recording this, by the way, on Wednesday morning, so the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens game still hasn't been played yet, so things might change if you catch this closer to the weekend. Now, I'm going to start with the Baltimore Ravens because I'm talking about that. They are 6-5. The way their schedule lines up towards the end of the year, I really believe that the Baltimore Ravens are in the playoffs. I think that they'll probably finish, what are they, 6-5? I think they'll finish 10-6, 9-7 at absolute worst, but I think they'll finish 10-6 given the schedule here. I think they're going to finish on a real burst. We'll see what happens. I mean, the players obviously have to be active. I don't like the way the game is stacking up against them tonight against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they are going to get some of their players back. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, according to Bovada, are plus 1,400 to win the Super Bowl, so the sports books still like them. I still like them, but they got to start winning. Ravens fans, if you're mad about this, last year I said the same thing about the 6-4 Kansas City Chiefs, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. So there's still time to basically go on this run here, and that's all that matters. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, they've dropped, 2 or 3 in a row or something like that. They need to start winning. The way their schedule stacks up to end the season is not good. They have to deal with a lot of really quality teams in the NFC West. Losing that game against the Patriots towards the end of the season, I think that's going to be big. What this does is it leaves them susceptible to some of the teams below in this graphic here, teams like the San Francisco 49ers, who they still have to play this season, and the Minnesota Vikings. Both of those teams now are at 6 losses. The Arizona Cardinals are at 5 losses. Cardinals have to start winning, and like I said, they still have some quality teams left on their schedule. Arizona, Bovada has at plus 3,300 to win the Super Bowl, so the sports books are not quite believers yet in the Arizona Cardinals. Given their little losing streak here, I would agree with it, but I always felt they were probably a year away from really competing anyway. Kyler Murray is still playing fantastic, and there's still time for the Arizona Cardinals to go on a run. Now, the Miami Dolphins, I like this team. They're kind of moving back and forth between Fitzpatrick and Tua Tagovailoa. I always try to... It's going to take me a year to get that to really flow off the tongue there, but basically, if Tua is not healthy, they're going to go to Fitzpatrick and feel very comfortable doing that. If Tua is completely healthy, they'll go back to Tua. At least that's what they're saying so far. Fitzpatrick won again last week against the New York Jets. They have a game this week that I believe is winnable. Let me look and see who they are playing. They are playing, the Cincinnati Bengals. They should win that game. They should improve to 8-4. But then they have a murderous stretch to end the year. They have what is essentially, in my mind, a play-in game with the Las Vegas Raiders, I think in Week 15 or Week 16. Going to be interesting. They have 3 games at home, including one against the Patriots, one against, I think they're actually on the road against the Buffalo Bills. There's just a lot of really good quality. They have to go and play the Kansas City Chiefs. Actually, I think that's at home, but still, it's a pretty brutal end of the year. This is a must-win this week against the Cincinnati Bengals, given how their schedule shakes out. They have to go to 8-4 and then just kind of hold on for dear life towards the end of the season. The Miami Dolphins, Bovada has at plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl. So there you go. Let's see here. The Las Vegas Raiders, I'm disappointed. I think that that Atlanta Falcons loss is going to really, really hurt them moving forward. I've been saying I like the way they play football. They are playing the New York Jets. That really should be a get-right game, although they completely blew it against the Jets last year. Given their collapse against the Atlanta Falcons this past week, I do think they'll be up and ready to play the New York Jets. And let's be honest, the Jets, they're keeping Adam Gase there solely to lose games. They got rid of their general manager. I'm sorry, that's the Jaguars that got rid of the general manager. But Woody Johnson, the ownership there, they're doing the right thing. It makes no sense to go to an interim head coach, a guy like Greg Williams, and then win 3 or 4 games to end the season. You don't want that, Jets fans. Absolutely not. The Raiders will win this game going away. Bovada has them at plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl moving forward. Now, let's get into these other playoff teams kind of in the peripheral. I don't see them as contenders yet, but the Patriots, very quietly, they're running the ball and they're playing defense. That's what you have to do to win. They have a favorable schedule to end the year. They could go on a run if teams like the Raiders, teams like the Ravens, teams like the Dolphins, who have a tough back quarter of the season, if they lose games, the Patriots could be in there and sneak into that 7 seed. I don't know that it'll happen. There's a lot of competition for those wild card seeds, a lot of teams ahead of them. But if the Patriots keep winning and these other teams kind of on the bottom wild card position keep losing, they're going to be a factor. The Minnesota Vikings, look, I know how they started the season. I predicted that they would start the season that way, but they were playing good. Now, Minnesota, I think that loss to Dallas is really bad. That one hurt quite a bit. But the Arizona Cardinals losing this last week to the New England Patriots, that puts the Minnesota Vikings to me in kind of pole position of the teams outside looking in. San Francisco, I like. The defense is playing better, especially off the bye week. I think the San Francisco 49ers will get better as we go forward. I'm just not a big believer in Nick Mullins to get it done, but the San Francisco 49ers, they have a game against the Arizona Cardinals. The Minnesota Vikings have an easier schedule to end the year. Their schedule to begin the year was absolutely brutal, and remember, they had all that turnover in defense, right? I always expected the Minnesota Vikings to be playing stronger towards the end of the year. This is the time of the year where Minnesota can go a run. Don't be surprised if they do it. I'm not counting them out yet. At this point, I think they're only a game out of the playoffs, give or take tiebreakers and all that stuff. So they're going to be a factor. Now, let's move into my top 10, which is actually a top 11 because the two teams tied for number 10. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 7-5, the Indianapolis Colts at 7-4. Both of these teams, I think, have great defenses, but they have some warts. Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, look, they're not playing as well as you would want their quarterbacks to play. They're not always sharp. I'm not going to take too much away from the Indianapolis Colts losing a division game against the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans knew, look, last week, two 8-3 teams, Tennessee Titans versus Indianapolis Colts. If the Titans were to lose that game against the Indianapolis Colts, they would go down 2-0 in the head-to-head tiebreaker in that division. That was kind of a must-win for Tennessee if they wanted to win the division. They came out with more urgency. They played well. Derrick Henry did his thing against the Colts, but that's not going to happen every week. And the Colts just beat the Titans and handled them like 3 weeks ago, or whatever it was. So I'm a believer in the Colts. Not having Jonathan Taylor to be kind of the more powerful running back, that hurt them in that game. They're going to get him back. The defense is getting healthier, and the offense still is improving in spite of what we saw against the Tennessee Titans. I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to be a factor in the postseason. I have no problem with them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, on the other hand, look, they were awful. I think they had a flawed game plan trying to go single coverage into Tyreek Hill. I think they were the first team to really do that, and they got burned in the first quarter. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter for Tyreek Hill, 203 yards to be precise. In quarters 2 through 4, I think they won 24-10. Kansas City was playing a little bit of takeaway, but really, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense made some adjustments. They adjusted well. They just got too far behind too early, and Tom Brady turned the ball over a couple times when he shouldn't have. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, basically, both of these teams, the Bucs and the Colts, have higher ceilings. They're just not getting them yet. I do think that they could be in the Super Bowl discussion if they fix some stuff in the back quarter of the season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bovada has at plus 750 to win the Super Bowl. Indianapolis Colts at plus 2,500. Now, the Cleveland Browns at 8-3. They are my number 9 team. I like them, but as I've been saying since the Odell Beckham injury, I really think that's important to have Odell Beckham because what this team wants to do, and I love the coaching, they want to run Chubb, they want to run Kareem Hunt, they want to throw to their 2 tight ends, and then they want to hit Odell Beckham on double moves and on single coverage up the sideline. Since he's been injured, I haven't really seen the over-the-top threat. I saw Landry kind of broke into the end zone last week. That's great. But, I feel like that's kind of the flaw in this Cleveland Browns team. Now, they are going to get Garrett back. This defense is playing better than I thought they would play to begin the year. The running game is as good as I thought it would be, and I was very, very high on this running game and very high on Nick Chubb, as I always say. I think he's my favorite running back in the league. But, Cleveland Browns have some work to do, but a team that can play defense and run the ball is typically the better team in the playoffs. The big question is whether or not Baker Mayfield can get it done when it matters, and we're going to see. But the Cleveland Browns are sitting at 8-3. They're really well primed for the playoffs, and if you think they're going to collapse towards the end of the season, they have games against the Jets and the Giants. Now, the Giants are playing better. I don't think that's a gimme. In fact, I think it's a trap game for the Cleveland Browns, but if they win those 2 games, and only win those 2 games, they're going to make the playoffs at 10 wins. That's enough to get you in a 17 playoff format this year, I believe. So the Cleveland Browns, Bovada has at plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl. I agree. I don't think they're a Super Bowl competitor this year, but if they get Odell Beckham back next year, we'll see if they take advantage of that trade clause. And I think they have like 1 day in the offseason to trade him for salary cap ramifications and all that. Given the cap drop this year, I don't think that'll happen. But either way, I think the Cleveland Browns, they're on their way up. Next year, they'll be in the even better, and that's the key takeaway here. Number 8 on my list, the Green Bay Packers. Nice win against the Chicago Bears. They can run the ball. My problem is their defense is getting a little bit worse by the week. I know they played fine against the Chicago Bears. Everybody plays fine against the Chicago Bears. I'm going to see what they're going to do towards the end of the year. I've been saying for a couple of weeks, although I like the Packers, and look, last year they were 13-3, and I said the same thing about them, and they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. They got housed in the NFC Championship game, but they still made it there. I said, look, this team seems to be overachieving in terms of record. I'm just not super enthused by what I'm seeing on the field, but their ability to run the ball with Aaron Jones, they've been so far ahead because Aaron Rodgers has been playing vintage Aaron Rodgers that they haven't really needed to thump Aaron Jones as much this year. It's really impressive what they're doing. Problem is the defense, specifically stopping the run. I don't like teams that can't stop the run as we get into a colder weather here. But the Green Bay Packers playing the Philadelphia Eagles, a desperate Philadelphia Eagles team at home. This is the type of game that, the Packers, when they're really contenders, they're going to win this game by 20. If they're pretenders, they're going to fall flat and either win close or lose a nail biter or something like that. But for right now, Green Bay Packers, they actually did improve on this list to number 8. Number 7, Los Angeles Rams, 7-4, plus 1,600, according to Bovada, to win the Super Bowl. Now, the Los Angeles Rams, they coming off a loss. I don't care. San Francisco coming off a bye week. Give Shanahan 2 weeks to prepare. I knew that was going to be a little bit more of a dogfight. I'm not worried about that. Sometimes you lose, especially those division games. I do not care. But the Rams are 7-4. They are in playoff position. They're a game behind the Seattle Seahawks. They still have to deal with the NFC West, but I think they've won enough games so far that they should be able to eke into the playoffs, especially in the NFC. I think 9-7 will get you there in the wild card. So at this point, you're priming yourself for the postseason. What I love about the Rams is they've turned into a defensive-minded team. I think they are led by their defense, whereas in the previous years they were led by their offense and play calling. Their running game is better than it was last year. Jared Goff, yes, I know he didn't have a great statistical game or a great game period against the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I don't care. People so recently forget the recent returns that we saw on Monday Night Football like 6 days prior to that. He completely shredded the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think are a pretty good team. So I'm not going to be a prisoner to the moment. I don't care. Jared Goff, sometimes you have a bad game. And the San Francisco 49ers, everybody, look, they've had massive injuries. Their entire roster was out on the reserve list this year, being sick and, the protocols and all that. And they're still like 4-6 or 5-6 or whatever they are. So the San Francisco 49ers are a pretty good team. Let's not write them off. So Los Angeles Rams, I'm not freaking out. Once again, Bovada has them at plus 1,600 to win the Super Bowl. Now, number 6, the Buffalo Bills. I'm liking what they're doing. I think they played their best game of the season last week. I do not like that their defense 2 weeks in a row before the bye against the Cardinals, and then towards the end of the game there against the Chargers, give up deep desperation passes. They're not great in jump balls in recent returns, right? I just said I'm not a prisoner of the moment for the Los Angeles Rams. I am going to be that for the Buffalo Bills because we've seen it 2 weeks in a row. They need to go out and do the schoolyard thing where you play the 500, you throw the tennis ball up in the air, and people rattle around and try to knock it down. Buffalo Bills, this is a valid criticism. Defensive backs, you need to knock the dang ball down, period, okay? 8-3, though. They showed a little bit more physicality in the run game, which I think they're going to need as things go in. And the big thing is outside of those jump balls at the end of the game there, their defense has been playing a lot better the last 2 weeks. I really like what I'm seeing. I've been waiting for this Buffalo Bills defense to hit their potential. I think we're starting to see that now. 8-3 Buffalo Bills. Bovada has at plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl. Number 5 on my list, the Tennessee Titans. They vault back up thanks to their win over the Indianapolis Colts. It was a convincing win. Derrick Henry doing his thing. And like the Bills, who, by the way, they defeated earlier in the season, like the Buffalo Bills, this Tennessee Titans defense, I know it has the potential. I wanted to see a little bit more of that. They played, I think, their best game of the season against an Indianapolis Colts team that I think is a little bit still underrated. Now, the Tennessee Titans, once again, 8-3. They are leading the AFC South. Tannehill is still, eating people up in the red zone. In goal line situations, they're scoring over 90% of the time. That's ridiculous, but they were doing this last year. You can't call it an aberration or you can't call it, a fluke. They're doing it years in a row. They're getting 90% touchdown percentages when they're in the red zone. I can't say enough about their play caller and Arthur Smith. And this is a team that if their defense really kind of pins their ears back, I still don't think they're on the level of the Kansas City Chiefs or Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. but they're going to make another deep run. They're built for the postseason. 8-3, Bovada has them at plus 3,300 to win the Super Bowl. Number 4 on my list, the Seattle Seahawks. Again, a team that vaults back up the list. I'm liking what I'm seeing. They handle the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're winning all these games within a touchdown. I'd really love to see the Seattle Seahawks defense just dominate a week. They are playing better, just like the two teams just below them, the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills. In the last couple of weeks, again, after the bye week, the Seattle Seahawks defense is playing better. I want to see them dominate. The offense obviously is playing fantastic. Nobody can cover DK Metcalf. And then you got Tyler Lockett on the side. You got Chris Carson back last week against the Eagles. That was massive. Their 3 losses came, I believe, with Chris Carson out. The first of those losses came against the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken, and that was when Carson got injured. They need that physicality. Chris Carson is not easy to replicate. I know fantasy football players always like to write him off. He's a good running back. He is a strong running back. He's awesome. He's very similar to James Robinson in Jacksonville, who everybody loves for some reason. Everybody loves James Robinson in Jacksonville. Everybody wants to hate on Chris Carson as a fantasy football running back. They're basically the same person. I think Robinson's a little better. But, Chris Carson, that physical running back, Seattle needs it. It helps Russell Wilson, helps the whole team. I like this team. I like this team a lot. They were my NFC pick to make the Super Bowl. I do have one other NFC team ranked ahead of them, but at 8-3, at plus 1,200 according to Bovada win the Super Bowl, you got to keep paying attention to them, especially if this defense improves. Now, the other team in the NFC I have ranked ahead of them is my number 3 team, the New Orleans Saints, 9-2. They keep winning without Drew Brees, and I'm not a big believer in Taysom Hill as a guy that can lead you to the Super Bowl, but they still stay at the top of the NFC. They still win. Taysom Hill running over people. Latavius Murray running over people. Alvin Kamara doing his thing. They're not getting a lot in the passing game, but that's really just by game plan design. Sean Payton knows what he has. He has a physical team that can win running the ball. When Brees comes back, there still can be a physical team if they want to, but they can also pass. I think this is great for the New Orleans Saints development. And also with Drew Brees out, the defense is taking a little bit more ownership and accountability, which is what they need to do, especially as we get into the postseason. I like the New Orleans Saints. Of course, I would not. This is under the assumption that Brees is going to be coming back in around week 15 when they play the Chiefs. I think they're primed for the postseason run. Let's see if they can get it done this year. Bovada has them at plus 750, which I believe are the best odds, along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to win the Super Bowl in the NFC. So you got to like that. Number 2 on my list, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not played yet. They haven't played the Ravens. I'm assuming they're going to win based on, all the people and the shifting of the schedule and all that stuff. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they'll win that game. But even if they don't win that game against the Baltimore Ravens, honestly, unless they get the doors blown off by a bunch of Ravens backups, I wouldn't put the Steelers behind the Chiefs at this point. The Chiefs defense, look, they had a big lead against Tampa Bay Buccaneers and let Tampa Bay back in the game. Chiefs defense just isn't playing as well as they played in their Super Bowl run last year. However, this time last year, I think the Chiefs were, 7-4? I was like, okay, the Chiefs, they're getting better, blah, blah, blah. The Chiefs are getting better week to week. They're 10-1. I don't think they've hit their ceiling. That's a compliment, Chiefs fans. I think they have the highest ceiling in the NFL. I don't think that they've been playing particularly well, and they're still 10-1 for crying out loud. They're that good. And I think they know they're that good. I think they're going to play better once we hit the playoffs. To me, the AFC Championship game would be the game of the year if the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs both make it, but we'll see what happens. Kansas City Chiefs, Bovada has at plus 325 to win the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are a legitimate number 1. Their defense is playing better. Their offense is playing strong. They aren't running the ball as well as I've seen them run before, but again, you got freaking Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, James Robinson, Eric Ebron in the passing game. You even have, when healthy, James Conner out of the backfield. And then you have a rotation. You have Benny Snell. You have Anthony McFarland. These Steelers are really good. If Roethlisberger stays healthy, and I've been saying this since the offseason, I thought they would make the AFC Championship. I called them in the AFC Championship before the year. This team went 8-6 without Ben Roethlisberger last year, with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges throwing the ball. You don't think that they're going to be a little bit better this season? Here they are. They're 10-0 as of the time of this recording. Depending on when you pick this up, they're either going to be 10-1 or 11-0, assuming that Ravens game does not get canceled at the last minute. Bovada has them at plus 550 to win the Super Bowl. I like that. They're finally, in terms of sports books, getting the respect they deserve to win the Super Bowl. I would still, if I'm an oddsmaker, still put the Kansas City Chiefs ahead of them, but they are the number 2 team in terms of odds to win the Super Bowl. They should have been there in the offseason too, in my opinion. But there's a lot of value here. If I'm picking one futures bet, though, I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. They have an offense that can hang with anybody, and the defense is getting a little bit better. And at plus 1,200 at basically 12-1, I think that's your best bang for your buck, personally. But anyway, there are my power rankings. I'd love to get your thoughts. Please like, comment, subscribe. Give me your top 5 below, and we'll catch you again next week with these power rankings.